In today's episode, we sit down with James Roffey, the resilience and transformation coach. We talk about James's journey from being dropped from his hometown football club, the trauma of losing loved ones, and how he overcame his eating disorder, and everything in between. This episode is not to be missed. I hope you enjoy it. James, the resilience and transformation coach. Looks like, from what I've seen, you're doing incredible things to help a lot of people. And it's been a pleasure watching your journey on Instagram, seeing how many people that you're helping and how many lives that you're changing with the work that you're doing and the coaching that you're doing. For me, I want to understand where it all started. Take me back to the beginning. Talk me through that journey of how you got to where you are today.
Oh, Christ, that's a long time ago. The journey really started from the age of like 7 when I got signed by Charlton Athletic.
Right.
Obviously, it was mapped out like you hear probably everyone. That's mapped out to be a footballer. But it really was that. From the age of 7, I spent 10 years at Charlton. Obviously, every year contract got renewed and got made captain at like 13. And my little claim to fame, you're on these like parties, like say one thing that no one would ever know. When obviously it was, I got to train at England's training academy. I think it was Bisham Abbey. So I played on the pitch next to David Beckham and Michael Owen and all that. So that was like my claim to fame. So it's like from the age of like 11 or 12, it was just like, Christ, this is mental. Yeah. I'm gonna make it. And then obviously fast forward to 17 when you're signing your professional contract, and like we'd finished the training session, everyone's waiting in the sports room, and you're being called one by one to go into the meetings, and the first like 5 or 6 go in, they come out and they've got contracts, and so it's like, well, if you get called, that's going to be good. So I get called next, and it was, we don't think you're tall enough. Yeah. We don't think you're tall enough, and like because of that, we're going to let you go. And it was just like, what do we do now? So just go back to like your normal life. It's like, but this was my normal life, like for like 10 years. Like I didn't know any different. And that was, I think that was the starting point of the slippery slope, so to speak. Like I had an incredibly privileged upbringing as a kid. Anything I wanted, I got within reason. But obviously always went away on holiday. Obviously my parents sent me to like private school and whatnot. And like you're not really aware of that until you're a little bit older, and you gain a little bit of perspective as like not everyone around you goes away on holiday every year, or mum and dad don't get a new car every year, and obviously it wasn't probably until like secondary school, grammar school, like 11, that it was like, Christ, I'm actually really lucky here. But then obviously going up at school, I was the footballer. I was the one that was going to make it, and then for that to be taken away, it was like, well, what am I? Like, I've lost my thing. I've lost the thing that made me, and kind of what made me different to everybody else. I kind of felt like I'd lost my identity. So I went back to school and carried on. I just entered my first year of A-levels, and I was never academically gifted. I was the sporty one. Like I'd play all the sports, whatever. Just when it comes to anything to do with being academic, it was like, if I've really got to try extra hours, extra tuition, I still never grasped it. And so, yeah, first year of A-levels were a nightmare. Just my results were, I got a C, a D, and 2 E's. And obviously being at a grammar school, that does not happen. I looked up to my dad and my brother. My brother went to uni and did business studies. My dad ran his own security company, has been in the security industry for like 50 years. So it was like, I've got to do business studies. I don't know what I want to do, but I want to follow them, so I'll have to do that. And they wouldn't let me do it. So it was like, what are my options?
Your dad and your brother are the school?
Yeah, sorry, my school wouldn't let me carry on with doing business studies. Right. Sorry, I made that clearer. So I was like, what are my options? They're like, you can drop that and obviously do the other subjects you got better marks in, or you can leave and go to college. I was like, I don't want to, but I have to. So I had to leave. So it's like leaving my friends that you'd obviously known every day from like 11 years old to go to college, which I didn't know anybody, didn't want to. Like I'm a massive creature of habit. And then obviously I left the school in the end of the year, like June, whatever it is. Started college in the September, and then my nan, my mum's mum, she sold a house in London to come and live with us. and then she got diagnosed with cancer in the January, and then she passed away beginning of March. Really aggressive.
Wow. Sorry to hear that. Man.
Yeah, and it's obviously that was, I think that was the straw that broke camel's back. There's like for someone that hadn't had any trauma, like them 3 traumatic events for me in the space of less than 18 months was just a complete and utter, I didn't know what to do. It just felt like my life was like spiraling.
How old was you at this
17.
point? 17.
Yeah. So it's like obviously an age where
you're still trying to find yourself, aren't you?
Yeah. And obviously like losing, I'd kind of lost I felt like I'd let my parents down, I'd let myself down, not making it as a footballer. You know, it was like, you look at thinking like, all right, my parents are secure financially, but I can retire and I can buy houses, I can sort my brother out, I can sort myself out, and like extended family, and it's like I took that on my shoulders. Like no one forced me. Obviously my parents just, like my dad played in goal, and obviously I tried to emulate my dad, and obviously
so you always played in goal then?
Yeah. So I've never known any different, and it was like watching him. When
did you get the growth spurt then? Because you're like the same height as me.
19.
So if they're saying you're not tall at 17.
19.
Yeah.
I was really late. And obviously, we'll get into it later as to why we understand why I was a late developer.
Yeah.
And even that was a real kick in the teeth as well, because it's like, what if?
Yeah.
You know, it's like you'd never want to have regrets in life. You try and give my all, so you don't have what ifs. And obviously, when it's something that you have no control over, you can do. Exactly. So it's just like, well, what if I had that growth spurt earlier? Like, what if it happened at like 16, 17 when everybody else has happened? Like, that wouldn't have been a reason then, so that would have been a box ticked. So, and it's just like, well, and obviously ultimately a lot of people said to me after that, like, did you not want to go and play for another team? And it was like, they weren't off there. There was no like feeder clubs, there was no like, oh, we don't want you, but we can put you into this system. I just didn't want to play anymore. Like, it was just like, it was just like, I'm not good enough. Like, if I'm not good enough for them, I don't want to play. And then it was almost like a pride thing. I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to go back and play like weekend football. And obviously that's how I felt like I'd lost control of my life. I lost my identity with football. I wasn't with my friends anymore, and obviously I couldn't do nothing to help my nan. And it was just, again, the mindset that I was in. Like, you look at it now and you go, well, if the doctors can't save her, what can a 17-year-old kid do? Nothing. But I just took that pressure and that burden upon myself. And obviously my mum, obviously when she passed away, like, she'd lost both her parents then. And I remember at a funeral, like, hugging her, and like, she pulled me away and she said, like, she's just like, James, I haven't got any parents anymore. And it was just like one of them, like, I can remember it like vividly, and it was just, what can you do? Like, that's your mum. Like, your mum is like there to comfort you, and I've got nothing to comfort her. There's nothing I can say or do that's going to make her feel any better. And it was just, I'm helpless. Like, I'm useless. I can't do anything to help anyone. And then the way that I dealt with it was I started to run. I do not know why. Still to this day, the amount of therapy that I've had, I don't know. I think ultimately the definition was the conclusion was that I was trying to run away from my problems. But like anyone, like, you can, if you run away from a person, that's fair. But if you're running away what's going on in your head, it doesn't matter where you run.
No,
like,
never get away.
No, it may be for that hour or so of running, you've got a little bit of clarity, but the moment you stop, you're still there. So it never solved the issue. And obviously one of the things that I have from football was, whatever I do, I need to be the best at. So it was like the running, I tried to become the best runner that I could. So I'd obviously like train myself, and I'd run for like hours and hours and hours every day. And then it got to a point where I started to cut back on what I ate. And then that's how that then led into anorexia, where it was obviously the starvation. I had this numbness in my life where I didn't know where I was. I didn't know like what use I was to people. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel sad. I was just numb until I ran. It's like whether it was like runner's high mixed with like running on empty with food. I actually felt something. I felt drive. I felt alive when I was doing it. And I guess it's anyone that's that relies on drink or drugs. For that split second, it gives them that release. And that's what that was for me. But obviously I took it too far.
What distances were you running?
I can remember I used to run for about 4 or 5 hours a day. And then on like the treadmill when I did go to the gym, I'd run at like 16, 17 kilometers. And it would I'd listen to the same like mixtape that was about like an hour and a half. And I'd listen to it like 3 or 4 times over. And that's when I knew, all right, I've done enough now. Just crazy. Just obviously, but that's what happens when you're
What was it within that? Obviously, the running that you explained that was you were potentially running away from your problems, but you had that runner's high. What was it with the eating that made you stop eating? What do you put that down to?
Again, like it was another way of like pushing myself. Like because there was nothing. We're talking. Well, I'm 36 now, so we're talking nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So, like mainstream media didn't talk about eating disorders. No. It wasn't something that was. Social media wasn't. Facebook was around, but
it was a starting point.
Yeah, there wasn't really a lot around mental health in any way, shape or form. So it's not like I've read it, watched it, and gone, oh, that sounds like something I want to try.
You weren't aware of what it was.
No. And it was just, however I was wired at the time and my mindset, it was just, I don't know, maybe one day I went for a run and I hadn't had breakfast and it was like, oh.
You ran a bit better.
Yeah. And obviously that then go, oh, all right, I won't do that then. Or I'll try and push, I'll try and push back when I eat. I don't know what it was. But obviously that was the trigger that got me into this like downward spiral. And obviously it was then reinforced when I did see my friends, which was not that often, maybe once a month I'd go out. And for that initial probably 6 months of running, it was like, oh, you're looking well, mate. Like you've trimmed down a bit, like you're looking good. And then you go over the brow of the hill and it was like, mate, like, you need a McDonald's in you now. Yeah. And obviously by that point I was too invested in what I was doing to really care. And then I stopped going out, stopped replying to messages. And then obviously that's where the eating disorder, it isolates you from everything. So you stop having any type of friendships to the point where obviously all my friends that I knew from 11, when they were going off to uni and like trying to like stay in touch, me not answering the messages, it was just like I was out sight, out mind. Nothing to do with them, but it's like if you keep messaging someone and they don't reply, what's the point? So obviously I fell out of contact with them, and then I think it was about 18 months in that obviously my parents started to notice like the weight loss, because that coincided with me shooting up. So like naturally I leaned out, I must have gone from about 5'8", 5'9" to about 6'2", 6'3". So I'm now like 6'4". So in like a very short amount of time, I grew quite quickly. And so that kind of masked the weight loss because I leaned out. So it was like I got tall and leaned out, so it was like disguised for a bit. And obviously, but then my parents noticed it, took me to the doctors, and that's when obviously they explained what my life was like and what had happened in the last like couple of years. And they were like, "We think you've got anorexia," and it was like, "What on earth is that?" Like at the time, it was like, "That's crazy. I don't even know what that is." Like, it sounds like I've got an illness. Obviously, they explained it. I was like, "I haven't got a problem with food." Obviously I had, and I was just lying to myself about it. But by that time that it was diagnosed, I think I'd already started to change and transition into bulimia. So it was like the starvation mode that I was in. So like not eating. And when I did eat, it was like tiny amounts, to the point where I didn't even want to run anymore. Like energy levels were just screwed. And so because I didn't run, I wanted to make sure that I didn't eat anything to like balance the scales, so to speak. And that's obviously where I started to almost completely rebel against starving, to like binging on food and then making myself sick.
Were you still living with your parents at this point? Yeah,
throughout the whole of my eating disorder, so the whole 10 years.
Would you ever sit down with them and have tea?
No. It was just I'd eat at different times.
So they were unaware. Like if you were going to sit down and have tea and they saw you not eating anything, they'd probably ask you a question, wouldn't they? Yeah, they would. Obviously, again, but I was so in control of everything that they'd be. And I wouldn't want anyone to see me eat anyway. There was like this big shame attached to it. And
And obviously I mentioned on previous, like whenever I brought this up, like I basically became like nocturnal. Like it's kind of like I had, it sounds weird to say this, like hybrid between anorexia and bulimia, because I wouldn't eat throughout the day. I'd wait for my parents to go to bed at night, and then I'd stay up in the night and binge from like 10:30 at night to like 6 a.m. Wow. So it was, really, really divisive.
And how long did that last?
That routine was about 8.5 years. Yeah, and obviously that was at 21. At 21, that was when I'd already started passing out anyway. If I got up to go to the toilet in the middle of the night, if I got out of bed too quick, you'd see stars, and then you'd wake up on the floor like, well, how's that happened? And it started to happen more frequent. And then it happened on a weekend. I think I was in the kitchen, and obviously my parents had it wasn't marble floor, but it looked like marble. And obviously I passed out, smacked my head on the floor, and then woke up with an ambulance, got called and got taken to hospital. And that's when they weighed me, and I was 5.5 stone at 21.
6'4".
6'4". And that's when I got put on a do not resuscitate order that my parents had to sign in front of me, because obviously I was at high risk of going into cardiac arrest because of the pressure I was putting on my internal organs, that if I went into, if I had a heart attack while I was in hospital, they wouldn't even attempted to revive me. And you'd think that would be the wake up call, when you've got your parents crying, signing forms, asking questions. Just didn't care. There was just nothing. There was no
would you have said you were suicidal at this point?
No, that was the ongoing treatment that I had and the therapy that I had. That was always the question I got asked. Have you ever had any tendencies? Have you wanted to do anything else? I was like, no. I said, it's not that I don't want to be here. It's just like, this was my life. This was me. Which obviously, in theory, it's a slow suicide, what you're doing.
But it's not intentional, isn't it?
No, it's not that I didn't want to be here. Obviously, I probably showed a lot of signs. Obviously, what I'm doing, I had no life. I'd almost fully let the eating disorder consume me, or bulimia consume me. So I was too ill to work. I was too ill to maintain any type of relationship or friends. Even the relationship with my parents have always been my rocks. And in their 50 odd years of marriage, I was the biggest strain on their marriage. They kind of took good cop, bad cop approach to dealing with me. My dad was whatever help you need, I'll give it to you. And my mum was like, I love you because you're my son, but I hate who you are as a person. And it was only you can change. So it was almost like...
What was the turning point then?
This is going to sound so blasé. It was boredom.
Right.
I'd been through, at 23, I got put into a eating disorder unit for 6 months.
Right.
Where, basically, a 23-year-old guy, you think you should be out, be out partying, obviously going to Ibiza and whatnot, and having fun, where you should be, final year of uni or whatever. And I was in a eating disorder unit learning how to eat again. And obviously it was just everything was monitored. So you'd have to sit in a room with 10 nurses watching you, with clipboards and writing notes. It's kind of that, how it was one flew over the cuckoo's nest. You were fed, you had your food through a hatch, and you had to sit there, and you couldn't leave for hour and a half after eating it, because obviously you couldn't go to the toilet or anything like that, and you just sit there, and then you had to go and talk about how you felt, and it was just I needed it, because obviously I needed someone to take that control away from me, because obviously what I did had got me into the position that I was in. So obviously I hated it when you're obsessed with food and obsessed with control, and then it's taken away from you. But it was the one thing that I needed to kind of go, shit, I've actually got a problem here. Yeah. That was one of them. People want to stop smoking. I'll stop on Monday, or I'll start my new diet on Monday. Yeah. That was me for years. I can stop when I want, but I just don't want to stop. But being in there, it was I've actually got a problem here. I can't sort this out myself. Had
you not admitted to yourself before that, in the years leading up to it?
No,
I've got a problem.
No, because I think no one pushed me on it. No one fought back. And obviously it wasn't until when the hospital got involved, obviously after passing out and that obviously there was normally a 4-year waiting list to be in the eating disorder unit, and I literally got like fast tracked in. It was like, you're there on Monday.
Right.
So that's obviously how bad I was. But then obviously the therapy that I had there wasn't the greatest. My first therapy session, I think I had like 3 therapists in total. And the first therapy session I had, like, guys like looked at me and it's like, you're the first guy I've ever had that's had an eating disorder. He said, it's usually like a woman's problem. So I'm like sitting across from him, and it was just like, he lost me straight away.
Yeah.
Lost me
Very
straight away.
insensitive.
Like, yeah. And obviously, like, again, think it, don't say it, mate. So what happened? The first thing I did when I got home that night, I had a massive binge. Yeah. Why me? Yeah. Why me? Why am I a woman?
I'm the only man that's doing this. Yeah.
And obviously it was like my whole 10 years with the eating disorder, I never interacted with another guy. The only guys that I dealt with were therapists or the dads of the daughters that were in the unit. So, and
then you'd obviously had that one experience with your first therapist, and they'd said something insensitive like that. And
that's what kind of like, in a way, it kind of opened my eyes up. But then it also brought with me like it was anxiety, social anxiety.
After this period.
After that, it was kind of like being in that unit. I think the rose tinted glasses that I had on about me, that I didn't have a problem, and then it was like I saw myself. Like the person looking back, because obviously attached to the eating disorder was like body dysmorphia, because I'd look in the mirror and I'd see myself as fat. Like if I sat down and there was like a roll, that wasn't good enough. And like it's not that it was fat, it was skin, but I wouldn't see it as skin, it'd be fat. So it was just anything that I saw in myself I hated. But then coming out of that eating disorder unit, I saw myself how everybody else looked at me, and I was looked ill. So then it was like, if I did ever leave the house, in like 6 layers on, and I made myself probably look even worse, because like really skinny, gaunt face with looked like Michelin Man, because I just didn't want anyone to see me for how I was. But then obviously there was like loads of different types of therapy, like alternative therapies that my dad offered. So I saw like hypnotists and like sports psychologists to try and shift my mindset. And I think it was working with the sports psychologist that, I don't want to say I had this like epiphany, but his way of dealing with things just got me. I kind of like gave myself to him.
You resonated with that person more.
Yeah, because obviously he worked with a football club, and he worked with the England cricket team at the time. So it was kind of like, oh, football. Hello,
you had that.
Relatability. So straight away. And obviously he was very much, obviously like the therapists that I had were very much, let's look at the root cause. Let's look at the root cause of it. Where did it start?
And when you spoke to the therapist about what the root cause was, did you relate back to being dropped from the football, the passing of your grandma?
But because obviously not to like generalize it, but obviously I think a lot of the trauma that started with the women that were there was stuff that happened in early childhood with external factors. Okay. So despite me coming with them and saying, oh yeah, this happened, it's like, yeah, but that happened at 17. What happened before? And it's like, nothing. Yeah, but what happened before? Nothing. And it was like this, and again, that they're trying to like poke and poke and poke, and it was
like something that wasn't actually there.
Exactly that. And it's almost like I was proper defensive. Like, you don't know my family. Like, my family are amazing. Like, yeah, but was there ever? No. Like, it's pretty obvious what it was. Like, I had nothing about me until this.
Did you then just get more frustrated?
I think I just, like anything. Like, if someone's trying to get into you, tap into you, if you're not receptive and you shut down, you're done.
I had that experience with therapy when my brother passed away. I only went for like 3 weeks. But at the time, the mistake I made was that I didn't want to think about what had happened, because it was still very raw. But I just wanted to push it to the back of my head. And then I'm like, but how did you feel after it happened? I'm like, well, how the fuck do you think I felt? My brother's just died, and I found him. Like, how do you think I feel? And I sort of like relate to what you're saying, because they're asking you questions that, for me, just frustrate you more than anything.
So you're just not really helping, is it? You're almost like opening up.
I'm not saying that therapy doesn't work.
That's the one thing I said. My experience with it was crap. But
you've had a good experience from it as well.
Exactly. So it's very much, you have to find your person, find that person that you can relate to. And obviously, I did with this guy, and it was very much, instead of looking at the past, it was looking at the future. It was like, do you want this for the rest of your life? And it was like, well, no. So how are we going to get rid of it? What are we going to do to work together to get rid of it? And obviously that was when it was just like, I genuinely just got bored. Like, I was about 26 then.
That was going to be my next question, sorry. So you had this obviously traumatic period from 17 losing your grandma, football, and then you've gone into this unit with the eating disorder. How old were you when you left the eating disorder unit?
I think I probably just turned 24.
Right.
So yeah, and obviously, despite the fact I was aware that I had a problem, obviously, like with anything, like when you have something for that long, it's very hard to get rid of. So it still took me. It was like 3 years in total. I think like at 27, I would say that I was definitely on that road to recovery. Even before then, it was I was gaining back control. But for probably for 3 years, the last 3 years of it was when I knew I had a problem, and it was like you trying this and you'd have a bad day and then you'd relapse and then obviously working with the sports psychologist, it was my big thing was to get back into work, to actually feel.
Had you not worked at all in this period?
No.
Right.
No, so obviously it was just I was too ill. I was signed off by whatever it was at the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't universal credit. It was whatever it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was no way. Like I couldn't even. I wouldn't even taken a job anywhere because I wouldn't have left the house. I had to live in my bubble. But it was like I reached that point where I needed more. I was at a point where I was wanted to have something challenge me, and I knew I'd already identified that having an eating disorder, the biggest key is boredom. If you've got nothing to do, that's when you've got the little. It's like the angel and the devil on your shoulder. Like you know what you're doing is wrong.
Yeah.
But there's the devil's like, if you've got loads of time on your hands, mate.
Yeah,
like, how you gonna kill like 12 hours today? Like, well, I can get rid of 6 of them for you.
Yeah.
And so obviously then it was just like, well, if I go to work and get myself back into work, I don't care what I did. It was just like, if I got a 9 to 5, that's 9, like obviously like 8 hours. It was 7 or 8 hours of like functional work where it's structured, it's routine. I have to do things, and obviously that's where I managed to get back into. I was a business development manager for a double glazing company, which was, like I say, it wasn't glamorous, but it was like the best job in the world at the time, and I lived and breathed it. I probably went from like one extreme to the other. Obviously, I'm like that all in, all out mentality, and so I'd finish work, I'd come home, I'd lead source, literally until I'd go to bed. So again, I was mitigating that time of being alone with my thoughts.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and then
What did you do? Sorry.
it was a business development manager.
No, I mean when you got home.
Oh, lead sourcing, like finding new.
Oh, right, yeah, finding new sales. Yeah. Sorry.
So it was like, just obviously, so I had my like little database of contacts for like the next day.
Just trying to get that next sale.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
And it was just obviously.
What was the best month you had?
Oh Christ, I can't even remember. The best thing about that job was I at the time, like when I was probably from like 25 for the last couple of years of the eating disorder, I got into, this is like completely wrong, and obviously it's transference, but I got into gambling. Right. I got into horse racing.
Right.
And I was really good at it. Okay. Like really good. So when I got into that job, the office manager at the time, like there was, I can't remember whatever one of the big, it may have been Cheltenham or whatever. So obviously like we got chatting and he's like, I'm in my overdraft, I've got this to pay. He was like married with kids. I was like, that's all right. I was like, Cheltenham's coming that, mate. I've got my horses lined up. He's like, well, you good at it? I was like, yeah, I'm all right. I said, I'd do all right. It pays me way. Obviously I had my dream car at that point. I had a M3.
Oh, nice.
Which was obviously for the job I was doing and for how long I was out of work, didn't really line up. Obviously I just did well with the gambling. And I remember like I got him out of his overdraft. I remember like getting a message off of his missus, like, I've never met you, but thank you so much.
Really?
Yeah, so it's like, I'm not advising gambling, like gamble responsibly, but no, it's almost like it wasn't right, but it was a lesser evil of what I had.
Sure.
Was
this at the time when you were doing this business development role?
Yeah. So it was
how old were you at this point then?
26.
26.
Yeah, and I literally worked every day, didn't take a day off for a year and a half, and that's when my boss basically made me have a week off. Right. And that's when I went up to, my brother lives up in Sheffield. He went to uni up here and stayed up here.
Is he older or younger?
Older. It's like five years older.
Okay.
And so I came up to see him, and it was while I was up here. He worked for like a project management company at the time. And while I was up there, he was like, he was one of the directors. He's like, we're looking for a construction buyer. And he's like, it's like they've written, this is like you. It's like you on paper. I was like, obviously, like when I went to uni, I did like business and marketing, and I'd done like a few sales jobs. I worked as a double glazing salesman to buy my car when I turned 17. He's like, this is everything we're asking. It's you. He said, I'll get you an interview if you want. I was like, I can't do that. Like, I've got a job. I'm fine. He's like, no, have a listen to him. I was like, all right. So like, came in like jeans and a t-shirt, like chatting about it, and they're like, they really like you. Like, and then like that evening they offered me a job, and it was like, I felt so guilty because like
Why did you feel guilty?
because like, my managers made me take a week off, and I've done it, and I've gone up to Sheffield, and someone's offered me another job, which is like more money. Obviously, like cost of living's far less. We're talking like 9 years ago now, and it was just like, I can't not take it. Yeah. And it was like one of these moments where my brother was away the whole time of he knew about the eating disorder, but he wasn't there, and he didn't live it, and he wouldn't know how to deal with it. And it was like one of these tests in life. Am I ready for it? I don't know. I'll only know unless I take it. And it was like, I've got to take it. I've got to know where I'm at. And obviously I coined the phrase with my clients, like there are times when you've got to put your big boy pants on and just go with it and learn and see if you it's like sink or swim. And like luckily, obviously, I moved up here, and I got made redundant after 6 months, which was a horrendous.
Yeah. So you've gone from 27 at this point?
Yeah, I was about 27 then. Yeah,
27, and all you've ever known is Maidstone.
Yep.
You've obviously gone through this period of your eating disorder, being in this unit.
Yep.
You got your first job that you've obviously enjoyed, but you've been obsessed with it almost.
Yeah, unhealthy. Yeah,
and then you've gone to Sheffield.
Yeah, it's like all of there.
What do you think? Like, you've just used the phrase that you have with your clients now. Sometimes you've got to put your big boy pants on and crack on.
Yeah.
Obviously, through your life, you've had traumatic experiences, and you've had this eating disorder, which has been, horrific to deal with. What did you have inside of you? What mindset did you have? Did you just think, right, I've got to put my big boy pants on and move up to Sheffield?
I think it all goes back to my dad. Okay. Like, my dad is and will always be my idol.
I love that.
Like, I've never. Again, I'm incredibly biased, but I've not met anyone with his determination to be it's not ruthlessness in any way, but it's like this unwavering desire to be successful. And he came from. It was a lot of love in obviously from with my grandparents, obviously like his mum and dad, but they didn't have anything, and he was obviously cut from a different cloth. He wanted to be the change. And he was, and he started working as in the security industry as like a installation, like alarm engineer's mate. So he'd carry the toolboxes and whatnot. And he did that at 14, 15. And then from then, at the age of 30, he was the managing director of the biggest security company in the UK.
Wow.
And obviously, and even to this day, obviously he's sold his business beginning of this year. So he's semi-retired. He's now working for the company that
how old is your dad?
60. Christ, what are we now? 60, 68? Yeah. So, and it's just, it was just that he's instilled this desire in me that although I lost myself for years, I think it just lay dormant. Like, my brother's always got it. Like, my brother has got my dad's work ethic to a T. Like, incredibly academic, incredibly good at obviously all the jobs that he does, and a proven track record, just like my dad. I'm different. I don't want to say that I'm the black sheep, but I've taken a very different way in life. It was just this desire to just, before anything happens to them, I want them to go, proud of him. And I thought the whole eating disorder, obviously at the time you have no self-awareness, you have no awareness of anybody, you become so inherently selfish, and a habitual liar, so you don't have these feelings or these inner thoughts of what do my parents think of me? And I think as part of the steps that you have to recovery, it was just how I just had these conversations with myself, not that you ever wish it upon them, but if my parents died today, would they be proud of me? No, I need to fucking change. And I need to do something that, as long as I'm trying and they can see that I'm trying, then I may not be where they would want me to be, or I may not be where I want to be, but I'm heading in the right track. I'm not back in that pit that I was in. And I think that's where I had to take that chance, and I had to take the opportunity. And despite it not working out, it was the best decision I think I ever made, because obviously the 6 months I got made redundant, and then I still had like 6 months left of my apartment, obviously, that I rented here, and I went off on holiday on my own to try and, one of them like, what do I do? So let's do that one. I mean, I went to Sharm el Sheikh, and then when I came back from there, after 2 weeks, I met a girl. And again, big step for me, because I've never had a girlfriend, never had anyone that showed any interest in me, because I had no interest in myself. So it's like someone that wanted to spend time with me. It was like, Christ, this is new. Like, I loved it. And then I think that was the final step for me. Mentally, that was the final step for me recovering from the eating disorder. I think when you're so inherently selfish and you're such a control freak in every form of life, after 6 months when my apartment came up for renewal, she said, "Why don't you move in with me?" And she had a daughter. So I didn't think twice. I was like, yeah. Before I knew this, like the personal development and self-development journey, or understood any of it, what I was doing was relinquishing my control and fitting into her dynamic, which was like such a massive step for someone that's a control freak. But I didn't even realize it. I was so head over heels for her, I didn't even see what I was doing. And obviously that didn't work out. And like she broke up with me via a WhatsApp message, which could have been better. But again, that pushed me the point where mentally I was recovered. And because I didn't get the closure, it was just like, James, I don't love you anymore. I'm going to stay at my dad's tonight. I want you to move out.
Right.
That's all I got.
How old were you at this point?
About 29.
Right.
20. Yeah, I probably just turned 29. So my deep dive into the relationship was, I don't look like a man. That was the only thing and obviously I started going to the gym, and the first day that I went into the gym, I literally bared my soul to the guy that owned the gym. I'm basically thinking, oh, the fuck's this guy? Like, Southern guy baring his soul to me. Like, but he basically put me in touch with his son. Like he owned the gym and his son ran it.
Was this a gym in Sheffield?
Yeah, it was. The bad thing was it was literally like a stone's throw away from where I lived with her.
What gym was it?
It's still City Muscle, the top end of Hillsborough.
I think I know.
It's where I've gone back there now. But I went in there.
Is it quite a big gym?
No. It's on like a parade of shops. So it used to be. I don't even know what it used to be. Obviously, they turned it into a gym. It's like, yeah, been there ever since. And I remember going in there, and they were like, if you want to change, like, we'll help you change. It's like, as long as you like commit yourself to it. And I was like, I'm all in on this. And obviously, I went to the gym for a bit when I was at uni, but you know, it's like when people go to the gym with their mates, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. You've got 4 people at the bench.
Just want to get like a little pump on your bicep before you go out. So like, I didn't know what I was doing, and that was my journey. Then that was how I got into personal training, online coaching, and like we said earlier, like I'm all in, I'm all out.
Yeah.
So I committed to it. I quit my job. What
was the job at the time?
I was working at the Sheffield Star.
All right.
So I remember ringing my dad up. I was like, "Hear me out. Give me a year. I'm not going to work for a year. Give me a year, and I'll be unrecognisable in a year." That was like my public declaration.
What did he say?
You're fucking mad. And it was like, well, I've got to prove him wrong. He was right, but I want to prove him wrong. And obviously that's where the Instagram started. Like people say that I did it for like a flex. I had no idea what I was about to embark on. It was more, I don't want to be deemed as a failure again. I don't want any of that from football. So it's like, if I put myself out there, I can't go back. I can't relapse in any way. And that's when I used to do like the Instagram lives and transformation pictures. And within 18 months, I'd put on like 5.5 stone. Nice. So I went from like just under 9.5 to like 15.5. So I basically filled out my frame.
Yeah. Like
what you should be if you're 6'4".
Yeah.
Obviously track that on Instagram, and then the world of Instagram led me into modelling, like extra work, acting work, and then obviously the personal training was in the background. Like train me,
You said something really interesting then, that you didn't want to be a failure again. Obviously, we all have that fear of failure.
Yeah.
But the difference is the people that push the fear of failure aside and go for it anyway.
Yeah.
And that sounds like very much what you did.
I think it was just that I know what it's like to do nothing. Literally live that life for a decade, and it's like you do nothing, nothing's going to change. At least if you try and do something, you may not get to your end goal, but you could be 70% there. So the journey that you've been on to that point, you're a better person, and the stuff you've learned could then help you take a different path to get to that other 30%. Like, I think that's what whereby like my kind of like USP or my uniqueness for my clients is the fact that I'm not just a guy that's like, yeah, lift that weight, do that. If you do that, this will change. It's like, mate, I've been with you.
Yeah.
I've been in the trenches. I know what it's like. I know how you're feeling.
People will buy into your story more than anything because it's authentic and it's genuine and it's real life experience.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I'm not taking away from any other personal training because everyone has their own journey. Everyone is fantastic at what they do.
Yeah.
But your journey is very, very unique. You know, again, not being insensitive, but having an eating disorder as a man is unique in itself. It's not that nobody else has had an eating disorder as a man, but it's unlikely compared to a woman. Yeah. So a lot of people that you train will buy into that. The fact that you've had this trauma at a very early age, you've had this eating disorder, and now you was in that uncomfortable position. You said, look, I need to do something. I want my parents to be proud of me. I'm going to move to Sheffield, which was obviously a massive thing. You then got made redundant. You then found the gym. And then you've been on this incredible journey, and now you are where you are now. And people are going to buy into that more than just Joe Blogs. I hope so, because obviously, although obviously, like I do the exercise, it's more exercise with me. Like, I love the gym, but I don't push it upon people. Obviously, if you don't like the gym, there's no point in you writing you out a gym plan because you're not going to stick to it for a few months. Then you'll bugger it off, and then it's the feeling of failure. You want to like mitigate that as much as possible. So it's like, what do you enjoy doing? And so I'll develop a plan based on, if you like swimming, if you like rugby, if you like football, like we can do things that make sure that you have that longevity with it. If you don't want to lift weights in the gym, you haven't got to do it. There are a million ways to keep yourself fit and active, and I think that's the thing for me. It's like just trying to do things that are going to enable you to. Can you see yourself doing this one thing like a couple of times a week for the rest of your life? No. What can you see yourself doing? That. All right. Well, then we'll focus on that. So it's just that's kind of my approach. I'm not like beasting you in the gym. Like I do that to myself because it's what you enjoy.
Yeah, and it's also like I learned that it's the benefits from that, not inherently the weight. It's the mental side of things.
There's no better feeling is than getting out of the gym, finishing a session.
No, and you're just like your whole body is like aching, but you feel so good. There's this thing you can't. If you could bottle that. You'd be incredibly rich.
You would.
But then it's obviously like it's February 2019 is when I became a PT, and then I had a cancer scare. I had a lump in my neck. I was going to. I'm glad this never happened, and I think it's one of life's ways of telling me don't do it. I was going to do a bodybuilding show, or men's physique show. So I was like a couple of weeks into prep, and I noticed this like lump in my neck, and it was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And actually I was under Northern General, and I had my operation in Barnsley. So I had, they thought it was cancer. And I had like biopsies and all that done. And it turned out that it was like a embryonic cyst. So it was obviously just something that I was born with, that I'd had a viral infection, and it just appeared. So it was always there. This viral infection just made it appear, and it was like half a tennis ball, literally on the side of there. So I had surgery to remove it, and that kind of, because of the recovery, I missed the show.
Right.
And then it was like, I'm not going to do one again. Like I don't want to do that.
Why not?
I think it was just like, I'd have to, for that show, I think I had to wait like another like 6 months to do the show again. I was like, I'll see how I feel. And then obviously after like a few months of getting back in the gym and not training clients, it was just like, I don't have that
desire.
No. Like I there's so many people that I know that do it, and I've got so much respect for him. I think, especially with where I'm at now, I think it would detract from my message, because I think, like, in terms of like the heavy dieting,
It's not good for your mental health,
no,
is it, dieting?
no, it's
Sure.
almost like, and it's like mentally I know that I'm strong enough. I just don't think it's in terms of like the message about me having balance.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to go do a show now. Like, it doesn't really. There's no synergy with that. So
I had a conversation with a lad from one of the gyms I trained at the other day, and I was asking him about competing, and he said the exact same thing. He said, I don't want to continuously compete because you have to take your body to the extremes to get on stage with the low levels of body fat.
yeah,
My message as a PT is sustainability
Yeah.
and longevity.
Yeah.
Being a bodybuilder standing on stage, as much effort it takes, and obviously a massive respect for people that put their body through those things, but you know, life is about longevity and sustainability and being happy.
yeah.
If you're on that low food for a lot longer time, you're not happy.
No, and I think I get it if you want to do it once as like a tick off, like a mental challenge and whatnot.
A mental challenge,
yeah.
nice.
Like
I can see that. Yeah,
I get that, but I think again with what I'm trying to push, I think, like I said, I don't think there's it doesn't really flow. So obviously, I think again I'm not a spiritual person, but I think there's very much that's like something was telling me, just wait with that one.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've never got back into it. So I was like building my career. I wasn't doing the mental health. I wasn't doing the mental health side of things. It was more just in the gym, getting my experience. And then that's when December 2019 was when I broke my leg playing football.
Were you still playing in goal at this point?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I was seeing a girl for like a few months, and it ended with her like rinsing me for like Christmas presents, and then blocking me on like Boxing Day.
Right.
So I was not in the best. I was angry.
Okay.
And we played, I think it was the 28th, 29th of December. And I remember like my parents were up for Christmas, and see my dad come to watch me, and I was like, I'm not in a good frame of mind today. I was like, if anyone's on me, I don't think I'm gonna stop myself.
Yeah.
And so it was like we played like this, like it's like a grudge match like you have with like a couple of teams in the league, and like at the corners, the guy kept on stamping on my feet. Like as you try, as balls come in, he like stamps on your toes. It's like you let him have the first one, you laugh it off. You'd be like, you're not doing that again. So he did it again, and he did it again. So I thought I'd get my own back, and I ended up like as the ball came in, I've like swung my elbow, and obviously like split his nose. Like his nose was obviously broken. And then like his teammate like scissored me like a 50-50 tackle. Like I just went like scissored me on my leg. I didn't realise I broke it. I thought I'd like sprained it. So I carried on playing until the end of the first half. And then obviously the 15-minute break in the half time, I was like, it seized up, and I was like, I don't think I can play. So I took goal kick in the second half, and it's literally just collapsed underneath me, my leg. I was like, I can't play. And because my parents were up, it was like I didn't go to hospital till the following day. I was like, oh no, it's all right, it'll be all right. And like it was getting like blue, black, all the colours. And it turned out I had a double fracture just above my ankle. So I was in like a little walking boot for 6 weeks. But then I wanted to be back we had the semi-final of the cup.
What team is it you play for?
It was Dronfield at the time. So we had semi-final of the cup against Tansley at the end of February, and I was like, I've got to be back for that. So it was literally my first game back. I've gone to training sessions. First game back, I ended up breaking my other leg in 4 places. So it wasn't even just a little break. It was a colossal break.
And how did you manage that?
Like a 50-50. Ball's coming to the edge of the box. My left back's running for it. Their striker's running for it. I've called for it, so I've taken them all out. I think I knocked knees. So then the knocking knees caused the fracture. Unbeknownst, like adrenaline was rushing and whatnot, and like I felt like I had like pins and needles. So I kept on stamping my feet trying to get the pins and needles done, like to go away. And then with about 5 minutes to go, they stuck a cross on the back stick, planted my right foot, and as I've jumped up, put all my weight on it, it literally just snapped underneath me off my own body weight. So that was like the most horrendous pain in the world. And then that was when I got let home like a week before lockdown. So luckily I never had to have an operation. They just reset it and then plastered me up. So the whole of lockdown, I was in a cast, like toe to.
That was tough.
Yeah, well, yeah, the first break was fine. The second break, it was obviously when we went into lockdown and the weather was lovely. And luckily, while I was in hospital, I bought myself a bench and some adjustable dumbbells. Thank God, because they went up like crazy money.
Yeah, I stopped for ages.
Yeah, so I set myself a goal that I think I waited about a month, and then when I could actually get out of bed without feeling my leg separate, I started to go walking on my leg, like so with my crutches, but I'd walk like a couple of miles a day. I'd hobble a couple of miles a day, and I'd had my own little routine of like I had to do like 500 press ups, and then my little routine like upper body stuff. So like I kept myself ripped. Upper body was great, lower body nothing. Like just I looked like a flamingo, and like I came out the cast in, I think it was August. I was under Chesterfield, and then they told me that I was clinically healed. So I spent like a month on like treadmill, walking on incline, putting stress through it. First game of the season, that was my thing. I was like, I want to get back for the first game of the season. The first game of the season, funny enough, it's where I went training today. Snap.
Oh no.
Exactly the same break. So under Northern General, like waiting in resus, and it was like, why were you playing football? It's like, what do you mean? Like, this isn't a new break. Like this leg was already broken. I was like, no, it's not. I've been like cleared from Chesterfield. They're like, this leg is not healed. This is like your leg was already broke. It was like a ticking time bomb.
Oh,
and that was when obviously that was September. Weather was crap.
Yeah, that second lockdown was awful.
Yeah, dark nights and obviously like the weather. Yeah. And that's when it was just like I played the victim. Then it was like, why me? Like, and then I the way that I dealt with it was saying like this was karma from my eating disorder. All the crap that I put my parents through, all the stress and worry that I put them through. This is the universe paying me back. But that was when I realised like financially I was screwed. I was like I wasn't working. My parents ended up like paying my rent, paying all my bills.
Right.
And I just felt like I was 32 then. I just felt like emasculated. It's like I've got to go cap in hand to my parents, and it was just like I've got to do something. Something's got to change. Something's got to change here. So then after lockdown, I didn't do anything on my leg till about May. So I gave myself like I came out the cast in January. So I gave myself like 4 months without doing anything. Didn't go to the gym. So like mentally, I felt I looked shit. For someone that goes like 4 or 5 times a week and football to nothing, like to see my body change, but I knew I had to do it. It was like this, I've got to go back in the gym. No, you can't, because if it breaks again, if you need surgery, like I was lucky enough that the 3 breaks, I never had to have surgery. So that was the blessing. It's like, you can't push your luck. Like, and that's when we came out the lockdown, and obviously a lot of people were messaging me about how tough they were finding it. See the social anxiety of going back into work. Like you're not allowed to be around anyone, you can go back to work. And then we're in lockdown again, then you can go back to work. They just found it, stressful. And I think obviously it's no disrespect to anybody else, but obviously for anyone that hadn't been through trauma, that was their trauma. For the first time in their life, whether you dealt with the shit that was going on in your life through drink, drugs, meaningless one-night stands, you couldn't do that during lockdown. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't drink. Well, I guess you could, but in terms of that social interaction was nothing. So everyone had to look within.
I think everyone turned into alcoholics.
Well, true, yeah. But it was like the first time that people had to look within, and it was like a sink or swim.
Yeah.
Some people you could speak to and they loved it. They did so much like self-development and like learnt about themselves, and other people just absolutely hated it and like barely made it through. And that was when it was just like a light bulb moment. Like, well, I need to redevelop what I'm doing. I don't just want to be PT in a gym, but there's no disrespect, but I felt like I can't get my message out.
You could add more value than that.
Yeah. And it's like my message would be better training people online. I can help more people. And then that's when obviously I relaunched as like James, the mental health PT.
So that
would have been July 20. 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, lockdown was 2020.
Yeah.
So there'd be July 2021, and that's when I during the first leg break, when I was recovering from that, was when I met my partner. Obviously, I spent the next like 4.5 years with her. So me relaunching what I was doing coincided with me leaving Sheffield and moving to Huddersfield with her. So it was kind of like a new start, new launch and whatnot. So for
Whereabouts in Huddersfield was it?
Fixby.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so it's obviously quite a nice area. And yeah, so I got to that point. I'm trying to think where we went. I don't think we didn't get engaged until the following February. The 2022 was when we got engaged. But obviously my mission then was in Huddersfield. It's like a new start, so I'm going to push the message out as the mental health PT, and that's where I got into. I did some work for the NHS and got into the council, and I still sit on like the suicide prevention and self-harm team, which again enabled me to, a bit like yourself, do the like the corporate talks, which like I never envisaged doing any of that. To me, it was like I just wanted to be an online coach. I just wanted to help people online. It's like this is a whole new area of like the business that could be developed on, and I loved it. I think it's just having.
Do you know this work, this mental health PT then? Mm-hmm. Did this come from during lockdown, that second lockdown? I think everyone struggled the most with the rubbish weather and the more extreme restrictions and everything like that. Was it at that point that you struggled the most with your mental health? Is that what gave you the energy, the light bulb moment?
It was the light bulb moment that I have to do. I think because of the financial, obviously everything else was bad. Everything else got affected, but I think the fact that I had to rely on my parents to pay to fund me, so I could stay where I was.
Would you say that took you into a depression?
I wouldn't say a depression. I just think it took me into that point of like, I've got to do something else. I have to evolve. I think that was I can't just keep
evolve or go backwards.
Yeah, I think it was literally that. So it wasn't like, don't get me wrong, like I was in a victim mentality. Like, why me? Like, one leg break's bad enough. Like twice, and it's the other leg as well. It's not like I continuously broke one leg, like they both broke. And it's like, for it to break again for the third time, it's like, someone up there, fucking hell, what was I in a past life? Like, not that you want to like get anybody else to go through what I've gone through, but like, come on, like, pass it out. But do
you not think though that now looking at what you're doing now, do you ever see, and I say this in my talks, and I often talk about this, that life is happening for you and not to you?
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Yeah, 100%. I say you take that, the initial, you can't really quantify it, the amount of time, but you have that, why me? And then it's just like that then like dissipates a bit, and you kind of come to terms with it, and then it's just like, well, how can I use it?
Yeah.
And I think obviously then something happens off the back of that, and then you look back and you go, I'm glad that happened to me. And obviously that's been a reoccurring theme throughout, well, especially what's happened, like obviously from last year. So obviously I was been growing the business. Obviously it was kind of being in Huddersfield, because I wasn't very well known and established. I was kind of a hybrid between like an online coach and a PT. So I managed to get my app developed. So I was working with my clients. I'd see them once a week in the gym. I was like a hybrid between the two, because most of my clients were like kind of new to the gym, very much from like football background, but obviously wanted to get a bit bigger, a bit stronger. And then obviously it was like, I reached a point where I was at about like 17 clients by the back end of last year. And I was happy. I was like, obviously I'd got married in June. And obviously things were seemingly good for me. And when we were on a honeymoon, we set about trying for kids. So we got tested just to make sure that everything was all right. Obviously my, I say ex-wife, had a daughter. So obviously I had a stepdaughter from a previous marriage, just to make sure that everything was all right for us to try. So she got the all clear. And then first week in November, I was still waiting on my results for like a month, and then I got the phone call to say, can you come in? It's like, oh, they found something then. I was like, is it? Like, yeah, they'll just text you otherwise. So that kind of like, oh God, what is it? And I know my brother had problems conceiving, and they did like a round of IVF. So it was like, that's all right. If it's slow swimmers or whatever, it can be sorted, it'll be fine. And then going in, my wife said to me at the time, like, do you want me to come in with you? I was like, no. Like, let me deal with this, and then I'll come back and tell you. And she didn't like that. And so I got told that there was no sperm in my sample. So I was like, what does that mean? They were like, well, it could be that it's an anomaly. There could have been a problem when they were doing the test or whatever. I was like, what are the chances of that? They're like, 98%. I was like, okay. It's like, well, we'll do another test then, obviously. I said, but if this comes back the same, what does it mean? That means that you're infertile. I was like, okay, what are the options? They're like, if the sperm sample comes back the same, nothing.
Really?
I was like, not IVF? And they're like, no. They said, obviously, we'd have to do further tests to confirm what it is. Yeah. I was like, fuck. So I had like a 20-minute drive, and I'm trying to process it by thinking, how am I going to say this to my partner?
Because you're not told her at this point?
No, obviously she was waiting at home for me.
Oh, sorry.
We'd taken her daughter to school, and obviously it was like a morning appointment. So like, she's waiting at home, and yeah, like coming in, and she's sitting at the kitchen table. I go around the other side, and she's like, so? I was like, it's not good news. At the minute, it looks like I'm infertile. And if it's confirmed, there's nothing that can happen. And obviously the reaction wasn't what I was expecting. I know it's traumatic. Not that I need like a pity party, but it's happening to me. It's not happening to her. But it was kind of made out like, how could you do this to me? Which was, I felt like I didn't have time to deal with it because I was trying to put out fires elsewhere. And so I ended up, November was a horrendous month. I left a couple of times, stayed in like Airbnbs to try and clear my head and deal with it, and ended up speaking to like a fertility expert that deals with guys that are infertile. I had the other test result back exactly the same. So although it wasn't obviously solely confirmed because they wanted to do more tests, it was like, what's the fucking point? Like, you're 98% and the test has come back the same twice. The likelihood of it being an anomaly is slim and none. So that's when we started doing tests to determine what it is. And it looks like it's Klinefelter syndrome, which is, I think it affects like 1 in like 10,000 guys, where when I was born, you got the double X chromosome to make us a man. I've got a Y chromosome attached to one of my X chromosomes. So the fact that I'm born a man, it immediately infertile. So I've got obviously no sperm whatsoever, which is, for a guy, like, and I'm thinking I couldn't process it because it was just like, naively, I'm like, but I've been able to change. I've got muscle. I can put muscle on. So I've got testosterone. So therefore, if I've got testosterone, I must have sperm. No, it doesn't work like that. Like, again, that's probably why I was so crap at biology at school. And you're trying to just like, no, it can't be. It can't be. So I'm trying to process it myself, and obviously all the while, I'm not getting supported. I think that's the realization of it all. And then with it being Christmas, obviously a lot of my friends, like my best mate, had a kid that year, and obviously like seeing everybody, and because we were looking at fertility tests, every advert on Instagram and Facebook was like, oh, have a kid. It's like,
not what you need.
No, and obviously I'd get upset at times, just like random stuff, and it was just all the things that you kind of had these things in your head, well, I'm not going to be able to do that, I'm not going to take it to a football match, I'm going to take the first pint, and then there was like other things that would just crop up on Facebook and be like, I'm never going to get that, I'm never going to have that. And obviously like my partner was like, but we can do the sperm donor, and it was just like, yeah, it's not the same. And I think there was this lack of understanding that she'd be its mother, I would be its dad, but not biologically. So like it was still this, at the time I coined it as like a dilute version. It's not, because obviously like it takes a man to be consistently there to be the dad.
Yeah.
And obviously that's where that barrier was gone. So in my head I'm going forward, like I know that's the only, it's like adoption or sperm donor would be the only options that I have for myself. And so as it got to like Christmas, and Christmas just wasn't a very happy time. Christmas is my favourite time of year. Like I don't care what presents I get. It's just everyone coming together. And it just wasn't happy. Atmosphere at home, and even like the idea of going down to mum and dad, I just wasn't fussed. Like if Boris, he wasn't prime minister, if he'd have run back up, like lockdown, I'd been like, yes. Like any excuse just to not put on fake smiles, because I just wasn't happy. And when I didn't show fake smiles, it was like, oh, come on. And it's like, I'm not happy. Like I'm not ready to celebrate. It's a completely wrong time.
Yeah.
And that's when obviously my partner thought I was depressed, and I'm very self-aware enough to know that I'm not. I wasn't. And I was incredibly sad and down. It wasn't stopping me doing what I'm doing. I was still working. I was still forging contacts with for work and whatnot. And so it wasn't inherently stopping me. I just, with the news that I got, you're not going to be laughy jokey. And obviously, I saw my parents, and obviously they were like, well, maybe it would help speaking to someone. And it was like, so I agreed to go and speak to someone. It's like, and if I can just unpack it in my head from someone that doesn't know me, it's not going to hurt. And so I went down 1st of January, came down from, obviously left the marital home and went to my parents down in Hive and spent a month 6 weeks having therapy.
When was this year?
Yeah, this year, yeah. And then obviously that's when it was the kind of understanding that what I thought was a happy marriage, very much still in its infancy, it wasn't.
It wasn't what it seemed.
No, and I think again, it went back to my parents. I look up to my parents. Their marriage is amazing. Obviously, my brother is married to my sister-in-law. They've been together for about 20 years and married for about 12. So it's like the two men that I look up to. I'm not at their level I'm wired differently. So from a professional point of view, I'm never going to be, at the moment, I'm not where they are. But on one level I was, because we were all married. And it was like, that was the pinnacle for me of marriage. And I think I'd got into the trap of, I loved the idea of being married.
Yeah.
And I kind of forsaked what was going on within that marriage because I was married. It's fine.
It was the label of the marriage, not the marriage itself.
Yeah, and I think that having, again, this is where therapy was a big win for me, because it was a big eye-opener. And obviously it coincided with my wife didn't want therapy. I think she decided to do her own therapy, which was to move on.
Okay.
So obviously I had to wait until, like, we've been married a year to put in for a divorce. So obviously that's the wheels are in motion for that. Which again, it's there's not. I think we discussed earlier. There's no hate. There's like things happen, and it's.
Do you see it though as well? Like going back to your three times you broke your leg. The marriage obviously broke down at some point. Obviously, it's awful that you're not fertile. But if you'd have not gone through that process, would you have remained in a marriage where the label was there, but the substance wasn't?
That was the take-home message from my therapy was that.
Yeah.
It's like, I had to find out at that moment. I could have found out at any point. Not you. Obviously, it was we spoke about wanting kids at that point. But there could have been times when, if I got tested when I had my broken legs, or I was in hospital having it done on my neck, or the time that I was in hospital with the eating disorder for months on end. It's like at any of them points, something could have flared up. Yeah. It had to happen then. So everyone was like, "Oh my God!" Like I'm like, and it is sad because obviously, like I did whatever, however it ended. But for the bulk of that relationship, I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. So it is sad, but again, you take the positives out of it. Like I found out when I was supposed to find out.
Yeah.
And her reaction was supposed to be that reaction to kind of get me out of the
situation.
Yeah, I think it was kind of, it took the rose tinted glasses off, and you saw it for how it was, and obviously she clearly saw it for how she saw it, and acted in her eyes accordingly. And obviously we've just gone like that. So I don't like how it's gone. It could have been handled a lot better with a lot more honesty, but it's happened. And if she's happy, then then that's all you like. That's it.
I love your mindset though. Like, just listen to you for the conversation that we've just had. The constant theme has been life's happened for you, not to you. You know, you've been dropped from your childhood football club, dream football club. That's all you ever wanted to do.
Yeah.
You've then lost your grandma, obviously very, very sad, very traumatic. You've then gone through this whole ordeal of the eating disorder. You've then moved hours up north to Sheffield, up in lovely Yorkshire. You've then been made redundant. You've then gone through all that ordeal. Yeah. Broke 3 bones in the space of however long, through probably the worst time to break a bone, which was lockdown. Yeah. And then you've gone through the ordeal of what's just happened with your marriage. Yeah. And now you're still here to tell people that it all happened for you, not to you. Yeah. Yeah, again, I think I swear by, like, I think it's not that to be like spiritual or whatever, but it's clearly, I wasn't destined to be a dad, but I was destined to do something else. And it's kind of like this, I think you never know what you want. I never knew what I wanted. I wanted to be a footballer. And obviously life will just take you on this journey, and it will give you opportunities, and it's obviously you have to take them. I'm not one of these people that's like, you see some people and it's like you've got to be emotionless and you've got to be like a robot, and whatever happens it can't affect you. Like, let's be honest, like, you're allowed to have, it affects you. Yeah, you're allowed to have these periods of self-pity, wallowing, because you have to do that to process it. But then you also need to check yourself, realize it, and then how am I going to get out of it? Action plan. So you write out whatever. Look at yourself from like a physical, mental, from a work point of view. What can I do that's going to push me forward? So I think I'm very much like I'm not a robot that's like emotionless. You're allowed to feel. You have to feel, and then you have to use that as the way to propel yourself forward. I think that's the easiest way for it. Yeah. I think life is a whirlwind of shit. It's about how you navigate yourself through that shit that gets you through the other side, isn't it? Yeah, I say if you can find the blessing out of it, then you're on a winner. On the right track, isn't it? 100%. Definitely. No, I think your journey and your story is fascinating, mate, and I think it'll inspire a lot of people. I know it'll inspire a lot of people. Like I said, that's what life's about. It's about using life's challenges, adversities and traumas, and overcoming that and using what you've learned from that to help other people. And that's exactly what you're doing. Yeah. You know, the resilience and the transformation coach. Yeah. The last question I have got is that if you could go back to 17-year-old James when you'd just been dropped from your hometown club, what would you say now at 36 years old? It would be a couple of things. It'd be, first of all, talk. Don't assume. Don't bottle up. Obviously, I for years I assumed, I took the role as failure, that I thought I was a failure to my parents, and it wasn't until I recovered from the eating disorder that we had this. I did a podcast with my dad, and it was only then that I realised all this stuff. That I was never a failure. But they were upset for me. They didn't care, and it was just like, what if I'd have spoke? So it would be like, the whole mental health like remit has shifted about talking. Obviously back then it wasn't, but it would be that, talk about how you're feeling, because how you feel, people will go, that's not how we feel. And again, that could have shifted my mindset a little bit earlier. Being let go, it doesn't define who you are. And ultimately, any bit of shit that you have in your life, you use it to your own advantage in the future. That's pretty much, pretty much that. Yeah, I love that. James, it's been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you for being on a guest. Keep doing what you're doing. You're inspiring plenty of people. Thank you. Cheers, mate.